Shad Northshield came up with the idea for Sunday Morning while I was at CBS, and became associated with that show, and during the next 7 years, contributed to Sunday Morning on a regular basis. That was sort of the main thing I did. And this was a wonderful program and very different, inventive at the time. It was also very well suited for me because they were features and they were long, and I was not doing evening news stuff for the CBS Evening News. I was doing weekend news, I was doing other things. I was not one of their favored correspondents. Those were the old CBS people who were there forever. And also, I didn't care. By then, hard news, it was not a thrill to be doing it anymore. So I was very happy to work on Sunday Morning. And I've considered it, a class show anyway. No, I didn't produce. I was a correspondent. I went out with producers, and they did the work. Now, basically, what happened to the news business, I'd say mostly in the 80s, the shift began from correspondents to producers. When I started at ABC, I was the producer correspondent on any news story I went out on. At some point, they decided to send producers along. And gradually, for hard news, as well as the longer form, like the Sunday Morning, the producers ran the story. They had the assignment, they did the research, and you were called in, and you read the research, and you went out and you did the interviews, but they even wrote the scripts. And I found this increasingly irritating because I thought, why don't you hire an actor to do this? I mean, what do you need me for? But this is the way they decided to do it, and that's the way it has been since and is now being done. Depending on the quality of the producers, you probably get some pretty good stories. I mean, a lot of these people were very talented. But on the other hand, it makes the correspondents, unless they're very lazy, and some became very lazy, feel like actors. And this is not an acting job. At least that wasn't the way I saw it. As Shad Northshield said, I always give you the sob sister stories because you're not a sob sister. I did a lot of misery stories, people suffering. They had this, whatever, diseases, poverty, trouble, all kinds of stuff. I did a lot of those stories. We did one on the last leprosy treatment place in the United States down in Louisiana. It was pretty interesting. I did some retrospectives on old actors, who had disappeared and reemerged. Betty Hutton, who had been a great star in my youth, who ended up living in a Catholic church in New England, doing dishes in the kitchen, and made a return to Broadway for 1 week. And so that story was a very interesting story to do. So, I mean, there were different kinds of things. You never knew, and it was fine. Kuralt kept to himself. He didn't have interaction with anybody. His office was not in the Sunday Morning area. He was very reclusive. But whenever you saw him, he was very, I would say gentlemanly and friendly and very nice. But nobody knew him well, and he really kept to himself. But he was, avuncular on the air, a very good performer for what he did.